Hello, viewers. Welcome back. In today's session, we will discuss about the different voucher types that Tally provides, the relevance of those each voucher type, and especially, this information or this session is going to be very useful for freshers who are getting into uh, the Tally environment or start working on Tally for the first time. uh, because basically what happens, the freshers in the college, they would have captured all what we saw in our fundamentals of accounting. We saw that you capture all the transactions in a journal entry. But when you come to Tally has a specified voucher type for each nature of transaction, and that is what we will be understanding today in this session. So let me just quickly share my screen. So now I opened Tally, and this is the same company where we entered our opening balance in our previous session. And now if you see, so one, we understood about the masters. So now we are now going to see the accounting vouchers, right? So when we go into accounting vouchers, we will see the different voucher type. The shortcut key for accounting voucher is V. I'm going to enter V. And by default, Tally is going to bring the payment voucher. Now, like I mentioned earlier, please make sure that anytime you people see any Tally screen for the first time, just go through each and every title and each and every field and try and understand. Okay. So now this is the payment voucher. Now, how do you know it is a payment voucher? You see on the left hand side in the red highlight, it says the voucher type name is payment voucher. Now let us first try and understand the each or the different voucher type that Tally provides, and what is the nature or functionality of that voucher, and when would you use that voucher in Tally. So let me just quickly explain to you. But before that, let me just show you the different voucher types. So how do we see the voucher type? So I come back to gateway of Tally, and then I go to display. Okay. And then I go to my list of account. And if you can recall, we had seen this voucher type in one of our earlier sessions. So by default in the list of account, Tally is going to bring the list of all your ledgers and groups. And remember our secret number one, right? So our secret number one is the right hand side button bar. And on the right hand side button bar, you will see a button which says voucher types. So you click on the voucher type, and Tally is going to give you list of all this default voucher type. Now, currently in this session, we will discuss about the accounting voucher type, right? And once we understand the inventory aspect of it, we will understand the inventory vouchers, and we will then understand what is meant by integrated vouchers, what is meant by pure accounting vouchers, and also what is meant by pure inventory vouchers, right? So currently, these are the list of the vouchers. So what we will be discussing about is the contra voucher, credit note, debit note, right? And we will be discussing about the payment, the receipt voucher, sales voucher, and our journal voucher, right? So let me just quickly explain. So if you see, Tally by default provides payment, receipt, contra, purchase, sales, and journal. So if you see, Tally provides 7 primary vouchers, right? So sorry, 6 primary vouchers. 6 primary vouchers. We can call this as primary voucher. Okay, what are those 6 primary voucher? First, let us take one by one. Okay, number one is payment voucher. Okay, and it is very easy to understand, it is simple, and it is obvious that a payment voucher is used. When do we use a payment voucher? Okay, a payment voucher is used in Tally whenever the company is making payment to somebody. Now, how do you know the payment is made? The cash or bank balance in the company, if it is reducing, that means there is an outflow of cash. So here you have to remember, when I use the term cash, it includes the money in the bank also. So whenever there is a decrease in your cash or money in the bank, which is the result of the payment that the company is making to another person or to any other account, so then you use the payment voucher. Okay. So just for us to understand that, when you are, so basically I'll say cash and bank. Okay. So whenever there is decrease in your cash or bank amounts, then you use your payment voucher. Okay. Number two, you have your receipt voucher. Okay. The reverse of that. Okay. So whenever the money is going to, balance of your cash or bank is increasing, which means that the company is receiving money from various other person, or various, from various other account. So receipt voucher you will use when you are receiving money, when the company is receiving money. Okay. And the third type of voucher that we see here is the contra voucher. Okay. And do my when I used to train, fresh graduates and student, I was surprised that many of them, didn't know the meaning of contra, and they didn't even know what is the function of this voucher contra. Okay. Now, for the benefit of all those people who really don't know about the contra, let me just quickly explain. And see, we saw, in case of a payment, what is happening, the money from the company, the balance of the money from the company is going to reduce. In case of receipt, what is happening, the balance of the money is going to increase. Okay. So when do you use a contra voucher? Okay. A contra is basically, it contrasts two different account, which results in, neither there is an increase in the balance of your money, nor there is decrease in the balance of your money. So under what instance this kind of transaction happens in the organization? Whenever company is depositing cash into bank, or when the company needs cash for their day-to-day operation, and if there is no cash balance left in the company, they need to withdraw cash from the bank, right? So money from your cash account is going into bank account. Now, is the money, the overall money, so when I said cash, the money, the balance of your cash and bank. Okay. Overall, by depositing cash into the bank, is there a decrease in the funds of your organization? No, right? So, which means money from one account is moving into another account. So, there is a decrease in cash, there is an increase in the bank balance. But overall, if you see, there is no decrease in the funds of the company, nor there is increase in the funds of the company, right? So, money from one account, which is from cash, goes into bank, or when you withdraw money, bank to cash. Okay. And sometimes what happens, companies, they have petty cashier who basically handles a small disbursement of cash. So in that case, so there is going to be a petty cashier, and there will be a cashier also. Now, whenever the petty cashier requires money, he intends for the amount from the cashier, and the cashier is now going to transfer money. So that again, if you see, is a contra entry. I hope you people are getting it right. So from the main cash, money is going into petty cash. Okay. Overall, the impact is, neither there is an increase or decrease in the overall funds of the organization. So that is when you use your contra entry. So contra entry is used when money is transferred to bank, money is withdrawn from bank, or money is transferred from one bank account to another bank account, or money is transferred from main cash account to petty cash account, or petty cash account to main cash account. Okay, so that is where you use your contra voucher. Okay, then comes your, the next one is the purchase voucher. Okay, generally, the this is the voucher that you use for all your major, okay, trading or manufacturing activity. So basically, any purchases the organization is making towards their trading activity. So what does it mean? So let us say I am a trader, I buy goods and I sell them with a margin. Okay, so all those purchases that I do, where those goods or services that I am procuring, if that is going to be my product, that product or service that I'm going to sell, all those purchases you will capture them under the purchase voucher. Okay, or all those purchases that you make towards procurement of your raw materials or components and various other thing which is going to be utilized for your manufacturing activity or your manufacturing process. Okay, all those procurements will be captured under purchase. Okay, then comes your sale. The fifth one is your sale entry, right? And so, which means basically all the sales that the company is basically raising the sales invoice, you will do this as part of the sales because these are the income of the organization. So, you make a sales invoice. Okay. Then the sixth one that you have is the journal now. Okay, the journal voucher. So why do we use this journal voucher? Because we already have payment voucher, we already have receipt voucher, contra voucher individually, and then why do you need a journal voucher? Okay, journal voucher is ideally used for two kind of transaction, and one kind is basically the adjustment entries. Right, many a times in the organization, what happens, there could be an error in passing the entry between the party, or debiting a particular expenses, wrongly debiting a particular expenses. These kind of errors could occur. Now, generally, the larger organizations, if you see, the users are not allowed. So that all that is getting covered in our security control. We will discuss about that when we cover the security control. So generally, the company never allow their data entry operator or accountant or any user of Tally in their organization to modify the voucher, which means alter the voucher. And also some companies, they also are very strict in deleting the voucher. Right, so supposing, let us assume that, so in my company I have created, let us say, two ledgers. One is freight inwards and freight outwards. Now, in one of our previous session, we discussed about these two ledgers, what is going to be their parent, right? So ideally and generally, your freight inward is going to be your direct cost. So freight inward is going to be under direct expenses, and your freight outward is going to be under indirect expenses. Now, let us say I had incurred a freight charges towards my freight inward, and by mistake, instead of debiting the freight inward account, I have gone and debited the freight outward account. Right. So now, while reviewing my books of account, I've realized that, I mean, like, this should have gone to my direct cost, which is my freight inward, and it should not be under freight outward. So now, in my organization, I don't have the facility to alter the voucher. Now, if I have the facility to alter the voucher, very simple, I can go into the voucher, instead of freight outward, I can go and select freight inward and I can accept the voucher. But now in my organization, there is no facility to alter. So now how do I correct this transaction? Now that is where you are going to use your journal voucher for these kind of adjustment entries, right? So what am I going to do? I had wrongly debited freight outwards, right? And for me to reverse it, very simple. I am going to credit freight outwards and I'm going to debit freight inwards. Now that is the transaction that I'm going to capture in the journal voucher. I'm going to say debit freight inwards, whatever is the amount that was involved, and I'm going to credit my freight outwards. So that way, the amount that has been wrongly debited gets reversed, and I'm using this journal voucher for the reversal aspect. The second reason for using your journal, which I very strongly advocate to people, is that uh, one, if you see in the purchase voucher, I had mentioned that all purchases related to your trading and manufacturing activities, you are going to pass the transaction. It doesn't matter whether it is going to be a cash purchase or it is going to be a credit purchase. Use the purchase voucher. Now, later on, I will also tell you what is the relevance of using this and how it is going to give you a reconciliation aspect of each voucher type. We will cover that little later. Just remember this. Okay? Now, any other purchase, like for example, let us say you are purchasing some office stationery, or you are purchasing any other expenses item on credit, right? So if you're buying on, see, if you're buying stationery by paying cash, which we saw the example in our fundamentals of accounting, then it is very simple. You use a payment voucher, you debit your expenditure ledger, and then you credit your cash or bank ledger. Now you are making a purchase of stationery item. Let us say you are buying stationery for your office from your regular stationer who's giving you on credit, right? So you're not going to make payment immediately, and you should not account that as part of your purchase. So what is that voucher type that I'm going to use? Now that is where all credit purchases of non-trading purchase or non-manufacturing activity purchases, you will capture them in your journal voucher, right? So the journal voucher, you can capture any kind of transactions. Okay, then you have your secondary voucher type also, which in Tally ERP9 you need to enable it. So what is that secondary voucher type that we are talking about? The secondary voucher type is basically your uh, credit note, okay, and debit note. Debit note. Okay. So broadly, a credit note is raised. In most of the cases, the credit note is raised towards sales return. That means any sales return happens, the credit note is raised. Okay, and debit note is raised in case of any purchase return. So this is the broad thing. Now I will cover in detail, because I have seen this even in during my college days. Even I used to get confused. When do I use credit note? When do I use debit note? Why is it called credit note? Why is it called debit note? There's going to be a lot of confusion, and in my experience in this past years training, I mean, like the graduates or the accountants of the company also, I've noticed that there is this confusion always among the people. So I'm going to dedicate one session separately for giving you a different use case of using credit note and debit note, and why this voucher type is called as credit note or debit note. We will be discussing that in a different session. Okay, so these are your primary voucher type, accounting voucher type in Tally. Okay, so let's now go to the voucher type. I press now from gateway of Tally. Accounting voucher is V for voucher, and now I'm going to. So we have seen that Tally is giving me by default. If you have already saved some transaction in some voucher type, whenever you come to voucher, Tally is going to give you the previously saved voucher. So in this company, we have not passed any transaction. So by default, Tally brings the payment voucher. Okay. Now, if you see here, how do I now? So we saw this different voucher types, right? How do I now? Let's say I made the purchase. Payment voucher, and now I want a receipt voucher. So how do I get my receipt voucher, right? So your secret number one. So if you see here on the right hand side, okay, so all this voucher type that we have discussed is getting listed here. So if you want to make a receipt entry, then you need to bring the receipt voucher on top here. So you will press F6 for receipt voucher. I I'm going to press F6, and now you see on the left the title says receipt voucher. Okay, so you make your receipt voucher. Now you want to do a contra entry, right? So you press F4, and now you're going to get the contra voucher. So if you notice here in ERP, Tally is giving you a different color variation for each voucher type, so that it's quickly you are able to, over a period of time, quickly you are able to identify these voucher. Like for example, contra is always white, right? So the moment you see this white screen, so you are visually you are certain that you are actually seeing the contra voucher. Okay, so contra, you're going to do this, and then F9 is your purchases, right? So this is your purchase. Then F8 is going to be your sale. So I'm going to press F8. This is my sales voucher. Then F7, I can click through my mouse. F7, this is my journal voucher, right? So this is how you can access all this primary voucher type. Now in Tally ERP, if you see, the credit note and debit note are not if by default it will be enabled, but then if you have disabled it, or if you don't want them, so if you see in F11 features, right? So in the F11 feature, if you see, we had gone and made it as no, right? So the invoicing, we made it as no. And in fact, by default, the debit note, credit note also will be no. Only when you require it, you can go and enable it. So in ERP, what you do, you say, I mean, like it says use debit note, credit note. You can say, yes, I want to use debit note. No, before that, let me just show you that if you notice here on the right hand side, the debit note, the button is not enabled. It is grayed out. That means I have not enabled the voucher type called debit note and credit note. Similarly, if you see, the credit note again is grayed out. So how do I now enable? This is where you are going to go to the feature, press F11. So F11 feature, you can invoke from any screen in Tally. So come here on the right hand side, you will see this use debit note, credit note. You just say yes, and we will discuss about this, the invoice mode, after we understand the inventory module. So I'm going to press Control A, and now you will see the credit note and debit note button is also enabled. So I can click now on credit note. So now you will see the credit note title here, and I'm going to click on debit note, and you're going to see this debit note title here. Okay, so this is how you will use different voucher type in Tally ERP. Now quickly, let us see how do you what is there any change as far as I mean, like getting the voucher entry experience in Tally Prime. Okay, so Tally Prime, uh, again, we have this. We had discussed this. There's a slight difference in your gateway of Tally menu, but now here, even if you have enabled your inventory module, it is going to be just vouchers. So you're going to have vouchers. So there is no now separate menu for accounting voucher and inventory voucher in Tally Prime. So you just select. The vouchers are already selected. The menu. You press enter here, and then you will again notice here that the payment voucher is come here on the left hand side. So you see here, and then again in Tally Prime, there are little bit of color variation between your Tally ERP and Prime. So now how do I get my other voucher type? Very simple. It's the same kind of an experience, like I mentioned. So you have this contra voucher F4, you have this receipt voucher, you have this journal voucher, you have this sales voucher, and you have this purchase voucher, right? So where is my debit note, credit note? Okay, in Tally Prime, the best part is that some of the features you really don't have to go to F11 feature and then enable them. So right from wherever you are in Tally Prime. So this is another nice thing that has happened in the Tally Prime. Like for example, I am in the voucher entry screen, right? I want to now pass a debit note or credit note. Right now, I really don't have to go to F11C, because what happens is that you have to remember that I have to go to F11 feature and then I have to go and enable the debit note and credit note. But I'm already here in the voucher. I want to make a debit note or credit note. So I'm now looking on the right hand side button bar, which is my secret number one. And I'm not getting the credit note, debit note, unlike what I saw in the Tally ERP. No problem. You see, there is another button called other vouchers, right? So you just click here, or you can press F10, right? And now you get the other voucher, which is your credit note and debit note also you get here. And on the right side, you will see the keyboard shortcut. So over a period of time, once you start using the keyboard shortcut, it becomes easier for you. So the debit note, credit note is already there. You really don't have to go to F11 feature in Tally Prime to enable your debit note and credit note. Okay. So this is basically, we have just understood the different voucher type, the nature of this voucher type, and how do you access the different voucher type in your voucher entry screen. Okay. So in the next session, we will see what are the controls or what are the intelligence that Tally is brought in each of this voucher type, which is important for us to understand, so that I mean, like, the person who's going to do the data entry is confident that the which I used to mention in my earlier session, the basic or the fundamental error is not going to be created, and Tally ensures that you are not going to make the basic or fundamental error. So a lot of intelligence built in each of the voucher type is what we will see in our next session. So thank you all once again for staying till the end. And if you have not subscribed, I would request you to kindly subscribe and share this link or video to your friends and colleagues, so that they can also benefit out of it. See you all until the next session. Thank you.